Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Mind. Today we are joined by head cheer and dance coach Heather Claypool. And Heather, how are we doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. How's your kind of off season been this summer?
Yeah, it's actually been really busy. The teams are getting ready for our UCA camp at the end of July. And so they've had like all their summer workouts, all of the things. They're trying to learn all their cheers and stuff like that since they don't really get to come down here for, the duration of the summer. They're really trying to work on their own and submitting videos and stuff like that. But working really hard. And then, we'll see what camp brings at the end of July.
Yeah, so you guys will have camp. What are we looking forward to for that? And, coming into the football season right after that as well.
Really, for cheer at camp, they're really trying to look to progress their skills. So over this last season, they really stepped up their stunting ability. And so now they're starting to hit those harder progressions. So now what we're looking for at camp is like, okay, now how do we make those solid, but then also continue to further that progression and really like hitting those stunts versus like sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't, and just kind of that wishy-washy in between. So camp is a lot of stunting, and that's like our major focus, but then also just team cohesion. That's really where they're going through the mud together as a team. So really just getting that team bonding up and see what they can do.
Yeah, and then right after that we go into August. We have football right at the end of August. And you roll your eyes at that, but how excited are you about that? Maybe a little stressed too.
A little stressed. I'm really excited. I think the girls are really excited. We start our season with O week, so they're going to be doing 2-a-days, which I think they look at the schedule and they're like, oh my gosh, 2-a-days. But I'm like, hey, we have our first football game the first week of school. So like we really got to get together and just make sure that everything is good to go. And then we have things like convocation. We have so many events just in that first week. So it's like, it's going to be really stressful. They're going to be fine. They kill it every year, but it's just going to be football being earlier this year is like, okay, we got 1 week to figure this out, and we're going to go from there.
Yeah, and kind of talking about that planning stage. We've been in countless meetings with the band, with you guys, everybody else in athletics. Just talk to me about that whole planning stage, just leading up to a game day on football.
It's kind of a lot. We have to make sure. So for on my dance side, they have to make sure their halftimes are good to go, what halftime they're actually doing. Then they have to communicate that with cheer and see if cheer wants to do the halftime show, because cheer doesn't always do halftimes, but they want to try to do all of them as they can. So with dance not going to camp this year, they're learning some new routines basically off of a different platform. So, and we don't get access to that until like the end of July. So they're going to have a quick turnaround to try to learn all of those, especially during O week, and really just drill that down. So then once we have our halftime, it's really just coordinating with band to make sure, okay, are our timings correct? Like with our walk down of football, doing pregame, what do those times look like? And also then while we're in the game, okay, when is band going to play? When is band not going to play?
Yeah.
We don't want to obviously step on any toes or anything like that. And we want to work all together. So it takes quite a bit of planning, outside of just, our weekly meetings. Me and Dr. Sampson are in contact constantly, and we're like, hey, we're actually going to change up this song, or we actually might add this into our list of songs to play. So then we kind of try to have a game plan going in. It's like, hey, if I know that they're going to play the Hey song at this time, this is what we're going to try to do, and things like that. So it takes a lot. So especially trying to get that done in the first week is going to be difficult, but I'm excited, and I think the girls are going to be a little more prepared this year. We have a lot of returners, so hopefully they can just kind of lead the way and lead these new athletes trial by fire, I think.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Kind of talk to me about that, because, the general fan at, every game doesn't know the coordination that goes on behind the scenes. Just talk to me about that and, the kind of experience you bring fans.
Yeah. It's a lot of coordination. So, all of the cheers and stuff and the sideline routines that the dance team puts on, those are countless hours of practice and making sure they look good, make sure that they're all correct. We can't go out there and put on a product that only half the team knows and things like that. We have to look unison, which is a little, unique about our sport, is they really have to be cohesive, all one. So all of that planning, making sure all the cheers look correct, all of the dances look correct. So my dance team's focused on all of those things. Cheers focused on that, but plus also adding in stunting. And okay, what stunt are we going to do for in between quarters? What stunts are we going to do during our like free time? So they really have to plan out like, okay, what stunts does everyone have that we can make it, one big group thing, or hey, you just go meet with your group and we're going to throw this, you guys decide what stunt you're going to throw. So it takes a lot of coordination. And what I think the like crowd doesn't see is they're like, oh, they're standing on the sidelines, like they're just doing their thing. But it's like, that's countless hours of
right.
of trying to get that to look as clean as it does. And I think over these last few years, like the crowd has really noticed like a growth in the teams, and just showing, like how much spirit and stuff like that we can get the crowd engaged. We have a few things new coming this year. Our sideline's going to look a little different. So I'm excited to see what the crowd thinks of that and see if they like kind of the interaction we have with that. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Looking back to last season, we can go over to the basketball season. I mean, it was a historic men's basketball season for the team. Just talk to me about that from your viewpoint and your girls.
It was amazing. I think my girls were so excited. We don't really get to travel very often unless, basketball makes it postseason, football makes it postseason, that sort of thing. And so it's actually kind of funny because I always put the GLVC tournament on our calendar just as a whole, just say, hey, just in case, basketball season ends here, but we could potentially go to the GLVC championship. And so I put that on the schedule and I'm like, hey, our men's team's doing really good. And our teams are like, we're traveling with them. Like my teams were like, we want to go. We want to be there. Like we've been here all season. We want to continue to go. So that was really awesome to see because especially our teams are a little bit unique in the sense of like, we're only kind of like a part-time sport in a sense. And so normally they're like, we have school, we want to work on these things. But this year they were all very adamant. They're like, we are going. We don't know how we're going to figure it out. We're going to get there and we're going to do it. So going to the GLVC was one thing. And then when we turned around and then went to the regional tournament, the regional tournament was like, okay, it didn't necessarily make sense for dance to go. And I wish they would have got that experience, but just the way that the tournament works, it didn't really make sense. But for cheer, they were like, we're going. And they had a blast. And honestly, I think that was probably not the turning point, but they definitely got closer as a team, just because we traveled together and we were doing all these unique things that, especially some of my more senior members, like they've never experienced that. So it was really awesome to see. My girls were so happy and they're like, okay, so does that mean like we're going to start traveling for football every weekend? I was like, I think you're trying to bite off more than you can chew.
Right.
Like, I mean, I'm down if we, eventually get there. I was like, I'm not saying next year it will start that way. I was like, but if we want to start traveling a little bit, like maybe we can start figuring that out. But they were like, okay, so we want to be involved in everything. And I was like, you got it.
Yeah. And one thing I applaud you and our athletic department on is you guys were one of the only teams that are not only at conference, but at the regional as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was, I was really happy that the department, was willing to send us and stuff like that, just because I think it's a part of it. That's part of our job, right? Is crowd engagement and, providing that atmosphere for the teams. And what was really awesome to see was, especially men's basketball was so appreciative of just us being there, our support and things like that. I mean, and we're appreciative of them. Like it was a great season to watch. And so just to kind of see that bond between my team and basketball was really awesome, just because we haven't really had that in the past, but we never really had the opportunity to have that. So like I know like they kind of gave us all a round of applause at the end of the regional. So it was really awesome, and my girls really appreciated it. So it was really cool. It was really cool.
And how much different is basketball compared to football on the cheer and dance level?
It's a lot different. I will say like basketball is a little more laid back, and I was like, it's just more because we don't have as much to do. We, for football, we walk them down, we have a tunnel, we have a pregame, we have, all of these different things. So like our football days are much longer. We have 5 more events that we have to fit in that day versus what we do for basketball. But basketball is really where they can focus on more of their stunting, because with football, we're like, hey, football season starts, like we're just putting out there what we have solid as of today. With basketball, they can experiment a little more and they can change it up a little bit, and they have a little more more time on the sidelines to just kind of show like what their individual groups have been working on and things like that. And since we're right there and we can see the game, we're like right there in it. Like I think they get a little more into it because at football, it's hard to see over all the football players. It's like
right.
some of my girls are only like 4'11".
Your flyers,
so she was like, there's 3 people standing in front of me. I can't even tell where the ball is.
Right.
But so so it's a little bit different. Like football is way more, I would say, quote unquote, serious. And then basketball, they're like, okay, this is where we get to have like a lot more fun. So
yeah, talk to me about Joe Minor. I got to bring him up, and you guys run Joe Minor. Talk to me about the experience you guys have had over the years with
Joe
him.
Minor is great. He's so funny. I've had a few different people in Joe Minor. I'm obviously not going to reveal their identities.
No.
Can't do that. But we've had a few Joe Minors over the year, and just kind of seeing them progress, and just like the unique individuals and what they kind of bring. Like, it's so funny because you like talk to these people in person, and then they could be really quiet or they could be really outgoing, but then they like put the suit on, they're a whole new personality, and then they're like, oh, I can do this. I will say I have put on Joe Minor once, and he's a challenging suit to be in. His head's very large, and like you can't see anything below you, so like his like chin comes out too much, so it's really funny like to kind of see them in their first few events as Joe. Like if it's a new person, they're like, I have to figure out how to walk in these shoes. I have to figure out like how to look and stuff like that. I also applaud them super much because it's like it's hot in there, especially for football. They do have like a cooling suit underneath, which is nice, but like on some of those days, it's the cooling suit isn't doing anything. There's a little fan. That little fan's it's just blowing hot air.
Yeah.
So they put a lot of work into it, but they do great.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many moving parts with Joe too. I mean, you got the holster, the gun, all that kind of stuff that's on him too.
Yeah, he has to watch that because he has a slide rule, he has a pickaxe, he has his gun, he's got all of the different things. Have to be careful about the gun because like he is one of the only few mascots to carry a gun, and it's like, you probably don't want kids like pulling that out of his holster. We pretty much keep that holstered at all times. But the pickaxe is something like you really start swinging. I think it's got some weight to it.
Yeah.
It's like foam, but it's a hard foam. And the slide rule is also pretty thick. So like the slide rule doesn't make it out as often. It's just because it's a little oblong and awkward. But the pickaxe for sure, it's heavy to carry around. But yeah, he does great with it.
Yeah.
And then like all the little kids love holding it and stuff. They're like, oh my gosh, I get to like hold on to a piece of Joe Minor, like especially when they're taking pictures and they're like, can I hold the pickaxe? And then that's when they usually ask if they can hold the gun. We're like, well, we're not going to hold the gun. We're not going to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of my favorite moments from the season was back in February. You guys held your camp for our basketball game against Indianapolis. Talk to me about that experience, and all those little kids got to go on the court as well during halftime. We
love our kids camp, and I will say over these last few years, the community has really loved our kids camp. It keeps growing. When we had the signups, I was like, surely we won't get over like 30. I was like, normally, I didn't even think to put a cap on it because I was like, no, like, there's no way. One cheer camp, we had 55. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so many little kids. But they love it. They get to do some stunting. They get to learn little cheers, and they get to cheer on the sideline. And they are like, oh my gosh, I get to do this at a like college. And especially with it being a smaller community, like they don't get very many opportunities like that. And so, we have so many girls that come back each and every year, and they're like, we look forward to this every February to do this, and then they obviously get to take their picture with Joe Minor, and they just get to be a cheerleader for the day. This last year we offered palms, and they loved that. They're like, we get these little cute like green and gold palms that we can like shake around and just be there, and the families love it too. And it just shows that like the community comes out, and then they're like, oh wait, our basketball team, like they're doing really well, especially this past year was really good. And so a lot of those families I actually saw start coming a lot after that. They were like, we want to come to these games now. So it's really awesome to see. The girls love it. That's like their favorite part of the year. They're like, so kids camp. And they're like, are we going to do one in the fall? I'm like, that's a lot. That's a lot. I was like, we already do it once in the spring. I was like, I don't know how we we do that.
Yeah, I think you guys more than most, your team has probably the best connection with the Rolla community more than any of our teams. Just talk to me about that connection and just the relationships you've built in Rolla.
Honestly, I think it kind of started, I got really close with the Rolla cheer coach, so the high school coach, and, she always invited me, and she was like, hey, I'm having issues at, like, a cheer practice with a certain stunt. Can you come and just, like, work on it for 30 minutes? She was like, there's just something I'm not seeing. But then she also always would ask me, like, hey, can you come help our tryouts? Which then in turn has now kind of progressed out, and, like, we've helped with St. James, we've helped with Newburgh, like we've helped with a bunch of different communities now locally. And then it also helps too that we're now getting more local girls on our team, because they have a great cheer program, and honestly St. James does too. All of our surrounding areas do. So we've actually been really fortunate with some of the girls, and now going into this year, we have one of our male athletes is from St. James. So we've actually had really good success with those athletes on those teams, and it's like, they get to stay at home, and they do have a little bit different college experience, because usually they're staying at home and things like that, but the cheer team really kind of brings it out of them. That way they're not, they're not going to class and then going home. They get to go home, or they get to go to class and they get to go to cheer practice, and then they get to meet all these different people. So I think that's really been huge, is getting those local girls, and then that way, just branching out those connections. So.
And this obviously doesn't apply to us, but the GLVC this year is adding stunt into their catalog of sports. Talk to me about that and just the growth of the sport that you guys are experiencing.
Yeah, it's honestly, cheerleading as a whole has just the growth of it. It's been insane. I was thinking back, like when I was in high school, which is, I'm not even going to say how many years ago, but when I was in high school, like a cheer team or even dance team, they were popular and people competed. But if you went to nationals, that was like very one-off, like, teams would maybe only go once every 4 years or something like that. They would never, like it wasn't as popular. Now, especially with social media and just seeing how hard these athletes work, I feel like it's really gotten cheer and dance as a whole out there as a sport. And it's like, hey, you can do this professionally. You can do this at the college level. There's now all of these new opportunities. So with that, cheerleading and stunting specifically is very athletic. You have to be strong. You have to be coordinated. Like it takes a lot more than I think people realize. And so now with stunt coming out as a sport in the GLVC, and I mean, just across the country, they're really starting to get kind of that more technical piece, and being able to compete at that level, and really show like, hey, these are the stunts that we can hit them really solid, and then score based off of that. So I think social media has played a huge role in trying to get cheerleading and dance recognized more as a sport versus just someone on the sidelines, because we put in a ton of work effort that comes into it that I don't think people necessarily realize. And so and heck, at some of these other schools, like they're practicing 5-6 days a week. They also have weights multiple days, and that's just the same as football or basketball or whatever sports. So it's like we're really progressing, and even going into this season, like my teams are adding in weights. They're starting to get all of these things just to stay more on top of their physical fitness, to be able to hit these stunts and be able to do them cleanly and safely. So. Yeah,
definitely. Last thing I'll ask you is just tell me what you're looking forward to this next year, or the new people you're bringing in as well.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this season. So I mentioned it a little earlier, but we pretty much have a lot of returners coming back, so only very few new incoming athletes. So I'm really looking to see them just progress off of what they finished with last year and where we can continue to move forward. Our new recruiting class, they bring in a lot of good talent, and so I'm looking to see how that kind of complements our returners, and just seeing, kind of that work ethic. What I've noticed, especially in this last season with my rookie class, they definitely have the drive now, whereas not to say that they didn't in years prior, but this new rookie class, they're like, I can do that. I'm going to do that. And, I'll give them a stunt and they're like, I can't do that right now, but I'm going to work on it and I'm going to do it. And so just kind of bringing that same mentality into this next season. We're starting with higher numbers and things like that. So I'm really excited to see kind of how it evolves and just their talent increases, game day environment increases, because that's what we're focusing on a little bit more this year, is like, now we have a good foundation, so let's continue to grow. And then hopefully, in a few years we'll start competing and things like that. So
yeah, definitely. Well, Heather, it's always a pleasure. Well, thank you, and
yes.
we'll catch you next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.